Hey guys, Tyler here. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is one of the most surprising game releases of the past few years. Developed by Sandfall Interactive, the game is set in a dark fantasy world inspired by the Belle Époque, a period of French history marked by peace and prosperity during the generation leading up to World War I. It follows members of the expedition who set out to destroy the Paintress, a being that causes the annual gommage, in which those at or above an ever-decreasing age become erased from existence. Inspired by Japanese RPGs like Final Fantasy and Persona, Expedition 33 has been hailed not just for its story, soundtrack, and art direction, but also its refreshing, accessible turn-based gameplay. There's a reason it cleaned up at the Game Awards in 2025, including winning Game of the Year. Expedition 33 is one of the best games I've played recently, and in this video, I'd like to examine various aspects of its world and give my take on the ending that's inspired fierce debate among fans. Let's get started. Real quick, before we go any further, I should tell you that I will naturally be spoiling the plot of Expedition 33 later in this video. If you haven't played it and would like to, I'll be sure to make it clear when I start talking about things you'll want to keep a surprise for yourself. First though, I want to talk about the setting. Expedition 33's world is not totally unlike our own. Much like other fantasy realms involving humans, it's Earth, but not as we know it. 67 years before the events of the game, the city of Lumiere was separated from the rest of the mainland by an event called the Fracture. This coincided with the appearance of the Monolith, a prominent landmark on the continent where the Paintress resides. After each yearly gommage, Lumiere sends out an expedition of volunteers to explore the continent in an effort to slay the Paintress, preventing her from painting a new number. Expedition 33 is, as you can guess, the latest to set out. Prior to the Fracture, humans socialized with friendly creatures called Gestrels and Grandes, who now populate the continent alongside monsters called Nevrons. Members of Expedition 33 include the resourceful engineer Gustave, his 16-year-old foster sister Maëlle, the brilliant scholar and mage Lune, and the calm and cheerful farmer-turned-teacher Ciel. And as they traverse the mainland, the expedition encounters various individuals, including the mysterious elderly man Renoir, who ruthlessly hunts them, a stranger who watches them from afar named Verso, a Gestrel named Minoko associated with Verso, and the mythical creature Esquier, who serves as their transportation. Before I get into more plot details, I do want to spend a few minutes talking about this game's production design because it is stunning. As I mentioned earlier, the architecture of Lumiere and the continent are inspired by that of the Belle Époque, which began after the end of France's war with Prussia, the predecessor of the unified German Empire under Otto von Bismarck in 1871. The Franco-Prussian War was fought under the reign of Napoleon's nephew in an attempt to reassert France's dominance in Europe. Though France lost the war, the vacuum left in the wake of the monarch's death led the provisional government to become permanent, resulting in the French Third Republic. Thus began La Belle Époque, French for the Beautiful Era. In addition to peace and economic prosperity, it was characterized by renewed nationalism and colonial expansion, as well as optimism and innovations in culture, science, and technology. Particularly in Paris, the arts flourished, with numerous masterworks of theater, music, and literature gaining extensive recognition. The Belle Époque also saw the construction of the Eiffel Tower in time for the 1889 World's Fair, crowning the centennial of the French Revolution. It was named after the engineer whose company designed and built it, Gustave Eiffel. I see what they did there. While initially criticized by some of France's leading intellectuals and artists, it's of course since become a global icon and one of the most recognizable structures on Earth, with references to it making their way into the world of the game, melted like one of the clocks in Salvador Dali's The Persistence of Memory. Paris in the Belle Époque also saw the rise in popularity of Impressionism and was the birthplace of modern styles like Post-Impressionism and Expressionism. And these styles are actually actually really key influences on the game's look. Now, word of warning, I'm about to go on a tangent about art history, but I promise it's worth it. Impressionism is largely recognizable for its visible brush strokes, open compositions, inclusion of movement, and its emphasis on accurately depicting the interactions of light, all with influences from Japanese prints. Just like Expedition 33 has JRPG influences. Impressionism took inspiration from both the Romantic movement, which advocated subjectivity and imagination in response to the Industrial Revolution, and Realism, which focused on more naturalistic depiction of subject matter. As realism was dominant in Europe, the Impressionists violated all the academic rules of their time by mimicking the pastel lighting of painters like Eugene Delacroix, who rejected the perfectionism and dark colors of Enlightenment-driven neoclassical art, Romanticism's main competitor, in favor of the brighter colors of Venetian Renaissance art. The Impressionists then combined this with realism's embrace of the mundane in an effort to recreate the sensation in the eye when we view a subject rather than delineating details. Impressionism actually got its name from a critical review of one of Claude Monet's paintings, Impression Soleil Levant, or Impression Sunrise, which was derided as, at most, a sketch. Impressionism's vibrant colors and free brushstrokes clearly contributed to the look of Expedition 33, especially gradient attacks. Even everything in the game that deals void damage, including Renoir's attacks and Mael's barrier breaker rapier, could be seen as removing paint. The landscapes of the continent, like the flying waters, also evoke the organic forms of Antoni Gaudi's architecture, as well as the more abstract qualities of post-impressionists like Van Gogh, who continued using vivid colors, but were also inclined towards distortion as a form of expression. This is particularly exemplified by many Nevrons, which also take a page from the Surrealist movement. Even more nightmarish scenes found in early 20th century expressionist works and some dark Renaissance art also seem to have influenced areas like the monolith itself, as well as entities like the Curator and Axon bosses like Siren. And the darker parts of Expedition 33 overall definitely take a page from Baroque art, a response to the Protestant Reformation, known for its embrace of drama, and another one of Delacroix's influences. Indeed, Flemish Baroque makes heavy use of chiaroscuro, the more well-known Italian translation of, wait for it, Clair Obscur, distinguished by highly contrasting light and dark elements close together and popularized by the likes of Rembrandt. This may also explain why I had to increase the brightness of my game so I could fucking see in caves and shit because the game is so high contrast. And this technique is also employed in Expedition 33's writing, which becomes clearer and clearer to players as they progress through the game. In addition to these innovations in traditional art, Belle Époque Paris was also the site of the first projected showing of a motion picture, La Sortie de l'Usine Lumière, or Employees Leaving the Lumière Factory, directed and produced by Louis Lumière. Hey, I see what they did there too.
Hey, that's the name of the...
Expedition 33 even throws a bone to surrealist cinema like the works of David Lynch with some of its liminal black and white 4x3 cutscenes. Speaking of more 20th century art, the presence of the Art Deco style is also apparent throughout the game, having first emerged in Paris in the 1910s, right before World War I, before flourishing in the 20s and 30s, as exemplified in the American public consciousness with examples like the Chrysler Building. Alongside more contemporary Art Nouveau motifs, it can be seen in several buildings in Lumière and on the continent, infusing the bright colors of modernist styles with the avant-garde geometric forms of Cubism and exotic forms from Asia, Egypt, and the Mayans. Ultimately, La Belle Époque is a nostalgic term that came into use after World War I broke out, the expression signifying what felt like a simpler time of elegance and progress, which the game captures very well in my opinion. The Belle Époque is also cited by at least one historian as the period during which European civilization achieved its greatest power in global politics, and also exerted its maximum influence upon peoples outside of Europe. This is appropriate given the universal acclaim Expedition 33 has received and its recognition by the French government as a historic contribution to gaming and the nation's culture overall. At this point, I will be getting into more spoilery territory, so if that's something you care about, I definitely recommend coming back after you finished the game. Interestingly, the original 2020 demo for Expedition 33, then titled We Lost, showcased a steampunk setting inspired by Victorian England and included more more overtly sci-fi elements like zombies and aliens. About 6 months into development under this approach, investors suggested to director Guillaume Broche that he think bigger and ponder what he'd do if not limited by their current resources. Broche then reset the entire story in the Belle Époque, which the French Sandfall team was naturally more acquainted with and was deemed a more distinctive time period. While some characters like Maëlle and Lune were carried over from We Lost, their design and characterization were totally reimagined for Expedition 33. Personally, while I think a steampunk version of the game sounds cool, I definitely think going with a different subgenre was a good call. Not only is the Victorian era sort of overrepresented already in lots of period pieces pertaining to the 19th century, but the way Impressionism's audacious, painterly aesthetics underlie the game's visual language sets it apart from lots of other modern RPGs. And if it weren't for this painting motif, we wouldn't have the Gestrels either. Though physically reminiscent of wooden puppets with paintbrushes for heads, the Gestrels are actually a representation of the Desandra family's pet dogs. When painting the Gestrels, Verso created them to personify aspects of their dogs, which directly influenced their culture and behavior. For instance, Minoko's habit of collecting and maintaining the feet of enemies to develop his skills is a comedic take on how dogs love bones. And in real life, Minoko and his son Noko derive their names from a Swedish energy drink, and lead writer Jennifer Svedberg Jen's dog was an inspiration for Minoko's look, particularly his mop-like hairstyle. Okay, at this point, I definitely will be getting into more spoilers for the ending specifically. If you're still here, need a heads up. As players find out over the course of playing the game, not only is Gustave very much not Expedition 33's main character, being killed by Renoir at the end of Act 1, but the entire world of the game, Lumiere, the continent, their inhabitants, etc., is a painted creation of Verso. I of course alluded to this a minute ago when I discussed how Verso painted the Gestrels. Verso himself is sort of a mirror of the real Verso Desandra. Well, real in the game, not real life. The members of the Desandra family have the ability to create their own dimensions, which are called canvases, through the process of painting that captures a fragment of their souls in the newly created canvas. The canvas that serves as Expedition 33's primary setting was painted by Verso as a child, and he filled it with creations like Esquier, the Gestrels, the owl-like Grandes, all essentially his imaginary friends. It's never explained how painting the canvases works. Indeed, before I played Expedition 33 for the first time, I knew absolutely nothing about its time setting or anything like that, but we do know that the real-world portions of the game are indeed set in the early 20th century, towards the end of the Belle Époque. Gustave died in December 1905 while trying to save his sister Alicia, the real-world counterpart of Maëlle, from a fire in their home. The fire was apparently started by a rival faction called the Riders, a cheeky, seemingly meta-reference to the concept of making art. I don't know, man, this game is super abstract at times. Alicia survived the fire, but was badly disfigured, and their mother, Aline, the paintress's real-world counterpart, entered Verso's canvas and created a facsimile of their family to cope with her grief. Aline became consumed by Verso's world, prompting Renoir to try and remove her by force. Indeed, he was the cause of the fracture as well as the gommage, and the expeditioners come to find out the paintress has actually been trying to stop it. Dude, that's like one of my favorite tropes in games. Renoir is actually the curator who helps you craft weapons, the Renoir the expeditioners fight instead being Aline's creation. Alicia was instructed by her and Verso's sister Claire to enter the canvas in order to help Renoir bring Aline out, but Alicia became so overwhelmed that she was reincarnated in Lumiere as Maëlle, losing all her memories. She regains her memories at the end of Act 2, still preferring to go by Maëlle, and tries to preserve the painted world against her father's wishes. This is where the two endings come in. If you side with Maëlle, she resurrects the entirety of Lumiere, including Gustave and the other residents who had gommaged, but Verso begs Maëlle to unpaint him as he doesn't want this life, having been made immortal by Aline. Though Mael grants him mortality to ease his burden, seeing him being effectively held hostage gives Mael's ending a very dark undertone that should definitely give you second thoughts if you chose that ending. I picked it myself on my first playthrough, but after seeing Verso's ending, I definitely think his is the better choice. If you side with Verso, the canvas is destroyed, allowing the Desandra family to finally come to terms with Verso's death. Sure, the other expeditioners aren't too happy, but Mael getting unplugged and coming back to reality feels like the more appropriate option, just like convincing Kasumi Goto to destroy the gray box with her late partner's memories in Mass Effect 2. That said, I can see the merits of both sides. While Verso being forced to continue to exist inside the canvas has a slightly disturbing angle to it, at the same time, this isn't the real Verso, it's a reflection, one you could argue should be grateful to exist period, and has an opportunity to embrace his remaining years of life. Though the other inhabitants of Lumiere also effectively amount to NPCs in this context, within the canvas, their lives matter to them, and siding with Mael in a way means you're saving the lives of a bunch of conscious beings who didn't ask to be erased. On the other hand, staying in the canvas too long has clearly started to have an adverse effect on Mael's health, and while being forced back into her real disabled body may not be the outcome she prefers, not only does it honor Verso's wishes, it can be argued it's healthier for the Desandra family overall so they can process their grief naturally. If you've played the game, which ending did you choose? Let me know down in the comments. The revelation that the world of Expedition 33 is actually a creation within the real world of the game initially led me to doubt whether I could even make a video on this. I typically analyze media like this through a naturalistic lens, examining various franchises' futuristic technologies and alien species from a real-world scientific angle. I was fully prepared to do that here, talking about the biology of the gestrels and the nevrons and so on, but even though they're fictional beings in this other fictional world, the inspiration behind Expedition 33's art direction still intrigued me immensely. Expedition 33 is definitely one of the more fantastical properties I've covered on this channel. Unlike theorizing on how superpowers influenced the direction of computer technology in The Incredibles, or discussing the effects of Bloodborne's aliens have had on the city of Yharnam, there's no straightforward way to explain how people can enter paintings and create sentient life in the Belle Époque France. Call it magic, call it technology we can't wrap our heads around, whatever. Maybe future games in this series can shed more light on this. In the meantime though, what I do know is that Expedition 33 is a beautiful, exhilarating game and an excellent work of cinematic storytelling. It's not perfect, the Pictos and Luminous system could really use an overhaul, and a mini-map would be really nice so you don't get lost, but if there's a game I don't particularly mind getting lost in, it's this one. If for no other reason than to just take in what Sandfall has crafted. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you don't miss future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, you can become a patron at patreon.com/OrangeRiver, link in the description, or become a YouTube member by clicking the join button on my channel page. I just want to give a quick shout out to all of my donors who allow me to bring on outside talent like editors to make more high quality content for you to enjoy. By becoming a patron or member, you also get access to awesome perks like behind-the-scenes photos and videos, Patreon and member-only polls, name in the credits, merch discounts, and more. Or you can drop a one-time super thanks or PayPal donation, all are appreciated. Links to my PayPal, as well as my social media merch store, where you can get a shirt like this, are in the description too. Also, just as a reminder, I do have a second channel, OrangeRiver Plus, where I've uploaded the VODs of lots of my gaming streams, with more on the way. And in addition to some other goofy one-offs and extra behind-the-scenes content, I've officially made it my second streaming platform, so be sure to subscribe there too, so you don't miss any new content. That's all I have for this week. For those who come after.